There's a lot going on right now. We're facing a climate crisis, a pandemic, rampant inequality, and who even knows how many violent conflicts. It's almost too much to handle, especially for a world who still can't decide whether or not smartphones are evil. The 5G's coming for us, man! But we can't just tune it all out. There are tons of important discussions we need to be having about tech, about politics, about our kids. The future is coming, whether we're ready for it or not. And the way we used to handle things, well, that's not gonna work anymore. In 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari highlights the questions we're missing in our discussions about today's world. He takes a pessimistic view, not of the problems we face, but the way that we're facing them. Because usually we're so busy arguing that we never take action. Harari says that the problems we're facing are urgent, and we've got a limited time to solve them. We can't cover all 21 lessons in this video, but we'll give you a few of the best ones. We'll start with 3 lessons about tech, then 3 social and political lessons, and wrap up with 3 lessons about our kids and our future. For more great book summary videos, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button. If you find this video helpful, hit that like button and comment below. It really does help the channel out. Alright, let's get into it. For the last few decades, there's been an ongoing debate about a question that's really pretty simple. Is technology good or bad? Most of us have an opinion, but the more we focus on that question, the more we're missing. After all, technology itself is just a tool. Electricity doesn't care whether we use it to cook dinner or power an electric chair. The decision is on us, and so are the consequences. According to Harari, the real question we should be asking is, are we comfortable with the way technology is being used? And if we're not, how do we address it before we're too late? For example, Harari points out that we're losing a lot of jobs to automation, but we're not really doing anything to help the people that have lost those jobs. That's a concern, because as our technology advances, we're able to replace more and more people. The more advanced machines get, the more jobs we lose. Heck, even art isn't safe from automation. Corporations already use AI to come up with song lyrics and even make up whole new songs. And AI-generated art might look like this now, but it's improving fast. You better not come for my job. I don't want to see any AI YouTube hosts. The point is, as automation spreads, modern corporations need fewer and fewer people. And because of that, more and more people will be left without traditional job opportunities. Harari's lesson is that we need to take action before too many of us are left behind. One solution, Harari says, is to broaden the definition of work, to pay people who stay home to take care of kids or elderly relatives, or those who organize neighborhood workshops, events, and resources. Things that we all agree are necessary or benefit our communities. That way we can financially support people who can't or don't do traditional work, or whose jobs no longer exist. Another option is something like universal basic income. This idea involves giving people a certain amount of money every month, regardless of what they do. Think of it like a long-term stimulus package. It pays for your rent, bills, food. The goal is to make sure that everyone's basic needs are met no matter what. That might sound odd, but a strategy like this has already been tested all across the world. It's common to suggest that this will make people lazy, but it turns out if working is optional, people find all sorts of ways to make their time meaningful and to help each other out. Another issue Harari highlights is that algorithms are making a lot of decisions for us, and we're not paying enough attention to the consequences. In the worst case, he says our reliance on algorithms could hurt our ability to make our own decisions. He explains that the better algorithms get at understanding what we like, we start to trust them more. And when an algorithm gives us a better outcome than our own brains, say if Netflix is better at picking out a good movie than I am, we start to trust ourselves less. In the long run, that could mean that we stop making our own decisions and start letting the algorithms do it for us. And that's Harari's lesson in a nutshell. Don't trust algorithms too much. He wants to avoid a situation in which our next generation lets algorithms choose everything for them. From which college to attend to what career path to follow, all the way down to who you're marrying and where you're gonna have the wedding. Earlier I mentioned that the most important discussion around tech is how we use it. And that brings us to Harari's third lesson. We need more regulation. Harari talks about regulation a lot, because right now we're just kind of letting things happen. It's like the Wild West for companies out there. So to really highlight how that's dangerous, Harari uses a really simple example. Right now, who determines the ethics of a self-driving car? Imagine a situation where a self-driving car has to decide whether it's going to kill its driver or a child. What do you think it should do? Most of us probably agree, try to save the innocent child. But here's the problem. It's not up to us. We're not the ones making the decision. And there's no law in the book, so who decides? Well, right now, it's probably some middle manager at BMW or Tesla. Whoever's in charge of the team that programs the cars. There's a chance that manager might be motivated to prioritize their customer over just some random child. Especially if that customer paid 200 grand for a Roadster. What kind of money that kid got? That kid ain't got no money. That's why we need regulation. We can't leave life and death decisions in the hands of some corporate climber, and we can't let every company choose their own answer. We have to codify this stuff and make sure that it's always the same. And according to Harari, we need to do this globally. When we don't, companies do this because they can. We always knew this was a bad idea, right? Like everyone saw this coming. They showed us the dogs and we were like, they're gonna put guns on the thing. Sure enough, here we are. Now, a global agreement on regulation may sound impossible, but Harari says it's actually pretty achievable. Let's explore that by taking a look at his social and political lessons. Harari says that the first step to addressing our global problems is to start realizing that we're more similar than we are different. Right now, we're letting our cultures, our nations, our beliefs drive us apart instead of together. And we have to stop doing that. See, he explains that most of us overestimate how important our groups are. We assume that our nation, our religion, or our way of thinking are globally relevant, that it's right, necessary, or just better. And that mindset creates a lot of conflict. When you think your way of living is the best, it's easy to jump to conclusions about how others live their lives, to mistrust people that don't believe the same thing as you. And that keeps you from listening to them and taking their problems seriously, from supporting them or from working together with them. What keeps us apart isn't good or evil or even right and wrong. It's the belief that we don't have enough in common and that we can't trust each other. And that belief just doesn't make sense. After all, people are people, no matter how they behave. Instead, what Harari says is that we have to believe that we can all get along and work together, no matter what our backgrounds are. If we don't, we can't fix global problems. And that's really important, because Harari's next lesson is on breaking those barriers down. It's kind of a common talking point. Yes, the internet has done lots of great things, and it's dope. I love scrolling through memes. You can always find me on TikTok. But it's also made us more isolated, and that isolation has led to conflict. Take Twitter, for example. Boy, oh boy, do I hate Twitter and love Twitter and can't get off Twitter. But if you ever argued with someone on Twitter, it sucks! And the reason it sucks is because neither of us is arguing with an actual person. We're arguing with an anime girl profile picture spewing the dumbest opinion on the planet. But here's the thing. If you had lunch in person with this anime girl Twitter profile dude, you'd get to know him a bit, you'd talk about other stuff, and then, even if you still disagreed, you'd find it harder to go tell him to In fact, I bet if you saw him in trouble later, trying to lift a bunch of heavy boxes into his car, you'd probably help him out, because that's the kind of person you are, deep down. That's important, because Harari says a lot of today's problems come from a lack of face time. Not meeting the people we disagree with in person makes them seem less human. We end up writing them off, thinking they're impossible to work with. But that's really not the case. So making those one-on-one, real-life connections is a big deal. Harari's next lesson is about unity. Here's the thing, today's problems are global. We can't solve climate change alone, as individuals or even as individual nations. He explains that from here on out, we have to think of ourselves as one big group, to join together as a global community to address the issues we're facing. Now, global unity might sound far-fetched, but according to Harari, it's really not. We're all humans, and we have a ton in common. Even though we're from different countries and cultures, those are all branches of a larger global civilization. In short, Harari's lesson isn't that we have to come together to solve climate change, world hunger, wealth inequality. It's that we can. Because you know what? We've done it before. In 1987, 56 countries signed a pact to save the ozone layer. Since then, we've stopped using chemicals that punch holes in our atmosphere. And what made that possible is understanding that we have to work together in order to survive. Now, let's talk about our kids and the problems they're facing. I mean, not my kids. I'm too young for kids. Harari's first lesson is that our education system is woefully outdated. The things we teach our kids today are based on what used to be important. Before the internet, information was scarce. Back then, if we didn't learn history and science in school, we might never have access to them. But today, all those facts can just be Googled, so memorizing them is much less valuable. Instead, Harari says we need to teach our kids how to navigate all the information that's already out there, how to tell the difference between fact and manipulation, or information and marketing. But it's more than that. Harari points out that tech makes it impossible to know which jobs are going to become obsolete, what our political situation's going to look like, and even what our bodies are going to look like 20 years from now. If we've already got mechanical hearts today, what's to say we won't have full-on mechanical bodies by the time our kids turn 30? Because things are changing so much, we need to teach our kids more life skills than technical skills. Lessons on how to communicate, collaborate, and make friends. How to cope with the instability that we're seeing in the world. And how to be happy despite it. That stuff will be useful even if we've got robot arms and jetpacks. Although, it might be easier to make friends with a robot arm. Let's not pretend like we know what our kids are gonna face. Let's not force them to prepare for a world that no longer exists. Instead, let's focus on teaching them how to live healthy, connect deeply, and think critically. That way, they'll be ready for whatever comes next. And if you're not an adult yet, Harari's got some lessons for you too. Here's what he says. First, adults can't lead you into the future. They don't have any more experience in the information age than you do, and they're just as susceptible to its pitfalls. Even most millennials grew up before smartphones existed. Back in my day, our cell phones flipped open like this. There was no Google until 1998, and today's most valuable jobs didn't exist 5 years ago. You're gonna have to find your own way. Second, you can't rely on tech to guide you either. The people who make it and sell it are not your friends. They're literally in a race to figure out how to manipulate you better. How to make algorithms that understand you better than you do. That's not what friends do. So spend time getting to know yourself, or you won't even notice when you're getting pushed around. Third, and this is rough, you can't just listen to your heart anymore. The voices in your head telling you what's right, what's important, what you should do, they're not coming from you. They're echoes of propaganda, marketing schemes, influencers, and online discourse. Even your favorite TikToker has an agenda. And while you might agree with that agenda, it's important to know where it's coming from. You don't even know what I'm feeding you. No, my agenda is to deliver quality book summaries. Finally, you gotta disconnect sometimes. The physical needs you ignore while you're scrolling and gaming are still real, and the more that you push them aside, the more they manifest themselves into anxiety, depression, and physical illness. Being outside, meditating, and exercising all help ground your body, keeping it healthy and calm. Doing physical things connects you to your body, and you need that connection, so don't neglect it. Harari's final lesson to kids and to adults is to beware of stories. All throughout history, humans have tried to find explanations for the things that happen around them. In the distant past, when hurricanes destroyed crops, we needed to know why it happened. So we came up with a cause to fit the effect, and we turned it into a story. And to those who heard the story, it made sense. It felt good to know why. To know that, for example, there's a God out there that sends hurricanes to villages that don't sacrifice a goat at the right time. Sacrificing a goat to make sure that the hurricane doesn't come for us makes us feel like we're in control. It makes the unsafe feel safe. And sure, you and I both know it's a story, that it wasn't real. What Harari is saying is that we still make up stories like this today. There's tons of them. If you work hard every day, you'll get rich is a story. So is those who believe in Jesus will go to heaven. Even men don't wear dresses and my political party is the good guys. They're all stories, but stories have very real power. If you're interested in hearing more of Harari's opinions on the power of stories, check out our video on his international bestseller, Sapiens. So that's the last lesson. Beware of stories. No matter how good they sound or how convincing they are, they're just stories. Don't trust them too deeply, and definitely don't let them control your life. In the end, Harari's biggest lessons are all about coming together as a global community. If we want a healthy, happy future, we'll have to get better than ever at connecting with each other, at understanding each other, and at working together as one unified species. There are 12 more lessons in the book that we didn't have time to cover today. Check out the Shortform guide to 21 lessons for the 21st century to see them all. Shortform makes the world's best guides to nonfiction books, complete with well-crafted short exercises to help you learn faster and remember more. You can get a 5-day free trial and a discounted annual subscription if you go to shortform.com/YouTube. Click the link in the description below. And support the author and publisher by buying 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. A link to buy the book is below as well. And finally, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next Shortform video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.